Can't give what you don't possess. So if you don't have self-awareness, you can't expect the people that work for you to have self-awareness. If you're not a good communicator, why would you expect the people that work for you to be good communicators?
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
So what does that look like? How do I know that I have a problem, and why would I reach out to someone like you?
Yeah. Well, the really, really non-technical answer is you're frustrated, right? You're frustrated with people, with this one person who you've had the same conversation with 7 times, or people not meeting your expectations on things. The more technical side of it is retention issues usually. That's one of the big signals that people have. But then the other more positive side of it is if a company's in growth mode, right? So we talk about that 5 to 50 million. If you're at that 5 and you're on your way up and you really like what you have, culture doesn't accidentally scale in a healthy way, right? And so it's really, really important to know what you're wanting your culture to be before you get to that 50 million, because the little cracks at 5 million become big gaps at 50, right?
So they might even more than 10x.
Yeah.
If you're going from 5 to 50, that's 10x, right?
Right, yeah.
And the culture change might be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you help them mitigate that risk of culture change? Because I'm sure at $5 million and they're wanting to grow, hopefully they're in a reasonably good place as far as their culture is concerned.
Maybe, but not always.
Why would they want to grow if they don't even have their culture set?
Well, because growth is almost an idol, right? Like, and a lot of people get into it with growth. That's the mindset, right? I mean, you can open up a magazine or whatever on most given days, and if you look hard enough, you'll find the story of some high growth leader or company who's crashed. And so I think it happens more often than people realize, where culture was a secondary thing to growth. And
how do you steer a ship together in the same direction if the culture's not set properly?
A lot of leaders do it by force of will, right? They are the one in charge. They're the ones that make the decision. And if you don't like it, you can see yourself out, right? So
how do you steer a ship without force of will?
Well, the best way to do it is collaboration and buy-in. You have somebody that knows how to cast a vision that's not only compelling, but also has legs, right? And has the right people that are bought into it with diversified skill sets, so that they can not only see the vision, but help implement it and scale it along the way, right? I'm not a visionary person. I am a systems person. I'm a methods and rhythms person, right? And so I'm not going to have the big vision to change the world, but anybody that has a big vision to change the world needs someone like me on their team to help actually make their vision reality and not just pie in the sky, right? So collaborative effort, I think, is the winner, right?
How many people work on your team?
It's just me. I've got a lot of colleagues that have their own consulting agencies or whatever that sometimes we'll work together on stuff. But my company is just me.
Do you have any plans for growth beyond just you?
It's an idea I've toyed with a lot of times, like moving to more of an agency model, maybe somewhere in the future. I don't, right now, it's not there. I'm just not, I don't know, that doesn't get me excited at the moment, but I'm open to it in the future. Yeah.
Where are you, or where do you consider yourself being in growing into doing what you do very effectively? Scale of 1 to 10. Where have you grown to as far as perfection is concerned and not being able to grow anymore into doing what you do?
Oh gosh. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm anywhere close to finished with that. I feel like every year I find something else that I want to bolt on, that I want to become an expert in, that I want to integrate into what I do. I think one of my favorite things, and this is just looking backwards on my history and iterations of things, is taking multiple frameworks, multiple concepts, multiple tools and resources and intersecting them. And I just find that there's so much more impact with that. And so, you know, like even recently I just read, I feel like I'm late to the party on this, but I just read No Rules Rules by Reid Hoffman. And I mean, blew my mind. And I
Tell me a little bit about that.
So No Rules Rules, Reid Hoffman, founder of Netflix. What the book talks about, he has these three kind of tenets for implementing, and like Netflix uses it to guide their culture. I'll see if I can remember them all on the fly. But number one is, I believe that's it's talent pool density, right? So their thing is, they want to get the most talented people they can possibly get. Average, he says what average gets you at Netflix is a generous severance package, right? They only want the top people. So that's number one. Now, if you have the top people, then that allows you space for tenet number two, which is radical honesty, right? So if someone is not performing up to their absolute best, and not just average, then they're going to hear about it. And it doesn't matter their position. It can be peer to peer. He shared a lot of stories in the book about how people that work for him deliver radical honesty to him at the top
about
of the company
himself.
About himself. Even things like, and this was, I've never heard of this before, but I mean, you've heard of like a 360 review. Most of those are done, you know, anonymously, right? They don't do any anonymous 360s. All 360s are done in person, face to face. You can't do that unless you have a dense talent pool, right? The top people who are not trying to prove themselves to everyone because they're already at the top, right? So radical.
But even if you're at the top and you're amongst top peers, you become average or top or lower of that.
Maybe, yeah.
Because, I mean, you have 20 people, you take an average of them, you're either going to be above it or below it.
Sure.
But you're still going to be at the top.
But I don't think they are taking their people and going, okay, of these people, who are the average ones, and let's get rid of them. It's for new hires, you know, as the company continues to grow and add people.
Okay.
That's a cultural value. And then the third one is to remove constraints, right? And so if you have the right people, the talent density, and you have a culture of radical honesty around those people, then there should be less and less rules as you go, because it's the context is in the culture, right? And you, it slows things down to have to go up the chain of command to get this expense sanctioned, right? Or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of trust, right, in that. But you can't start with that, right? You can't start with relaxing the restrictions. You have to start with talent density, then the honesty, then that comes in. And it was a phenomenal book. And so the whole time I'm reading it, I'm going, oh my gosh, this is a whole nother layer I've got to fit into what I do when I'm talking to executives, company owners, whatever. And how can I integrate this into what I'm talking about? Because this is brilliant. So it's a long-winded way to answer your question, but I'm always trying to learn new stuff and go, okay, how does this fit with what I'm already doing?
Do you ever do any self-reflection?
All the time. My favorite thing, I actually just put out a huge article about this today. So I have a tool called the Peace Index. Peace Index, super quick.
How do you spell peace?
Peace, like peace and love.
E-A, not I-E.
Yeah, E-A-C-E, yeah, peace. Peace Index. The concept behind Peace Index is You and I, everybody that we run into, there's a number floating above your head, right? That is your peace index score. Your peace index score really determines your capacity to respond to the world around you. If your score is low, you're going to respond reactively. If your score is high, then you can respond in a way that's more healthy, right? But that's just not a random number. There's some key categories that we look at to determine what that number is. So we talk about your purpose, the people around you. Conveniently, these are all P's, so that makes it easier to remember. Your personal health, your provision, and your place.
Your provision.
Provision. So do you have what you need? Are you able to provide for yourself and anyone who depends on you? Financially, energy, time, emotionally, whatever it is. Are you able to provide for yourself and those who depend on you?
And the fifth one?
Fifth one is place. So that's the physical world that you inhabit, whether that's your office space, your home, or all the places that you are regularly at in between. Yeah.
So it's a self-assessment tool?
It is. So the way I use it, I have a spreadsheet that I, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 times a week, it's the first thing I do when I start my work day, is I do a check-in on that and give myself a score on those 5 key areas. I've been doing that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the last 4 years. So I have 620 entries as of today that is data on myself. Along with each one of those, I'm putting notes, kind of a mini journal, right? And
now, this is digital?
I keep it digitally. Yeah, I have a spreadsheet that I keep. And so then I can track trends and patterns. I mentioned to you earlier that I moved back to Tulsa about 3 years ago. That document is why I moved. My place score plummeted. And I looked at it and saw there was this huge gap where all of a sudden my score was down. When I went and looked at why, it was all around where I lived. And so it actually was the impetus behind me coming back to Tulsa, was that document. Do
you view that document, the peace, what'd you say, peace index?
Yeah.
Do you view that peace index dealing with the 3 aspects that Netflix uses? Are you the top?
Explain more. I'm not following.
So are you at the top of your game? Are you the best in your field?
Oh, the talent Netflix, density thing.
3 aspects, whatever it is. Yeah. Talent. What'd you say? Talent
density.
Density. That's number 1, right? Talent density is number 1. What's the program that Netflix uses? What's that system?
The book's called No Rules Rules.
No Rules Rules. Yeah. So on the 3 aspects of the No Rules Rules, are you top of your talent? Are you completely honest with yourself? And what's the third one?
Relaxing constraints.
Yeah. So are you completely honest with yourself? Or are you at the top of your game? Are you completely honest with yourself? And how unconstrained can you live?
Yeah.
Do you look at life that way of your own within those 5 Ps?
Admittedly, I have not thought about this, so I'm processing real time with you on it. But I love that idea of thinking through it that way. I would say top of my game, the talent density thing. I'm really good at what I do. I'm a really good teacher. I love what I do. I love public speaking and I love doing workshops. And one of my favorite things is walking into an organization and seeing the person sitting in the corner with their arms crossed because they didn't want to be there. It's a bit of a personal challenge to me, right? To go,
hold on, man. Jokingly done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. But the best is at the end of a series, whenever that person goes, yeah, I didn't want to be here when this started. This is the best thing we've ever done with our organization. I love that. And so I know that I'm good at what I do. At the same time, I know there's so much to learn. And I want to keep learning and growing and getting even better at it. So kind of a 2-sided answer to that question, I suppose. But the peace index really, when you talk about how healthy am I as a leader, both professionally and personally, I think I'm healthy. I have room to grow, right? I'm always trying to go, okay, what's my lowest denominator of these, and how can I get better at that one?
Yeah. So you have yourself that you're leading, and you're giving tools to corporations. Do you feel like you're leading them or affecting their leadership?
Affecting their leadership for sure. My hope is to help people have self-awareness of their own leadership tendencies and give them the tools and resources to help them actually be able to change what needs to be changed, right? To create a different culture and different reality for them based on things that they can control. And so I'm trying to equip people with knowledge and tools to be able to, do something different than what they have.
So how do you gauge your leadership if you're leading just yourself?
If I'm leading just myself.
Yeah, you're giving these people tools, and you said that you thought you gauged yourself as a fairly high leadership ability. How do you gauge if your leadership skills if you're just leading yourself and you're not leading those companies?
So how do I gauge my leadership?
Because you said you gauged it kind of high, right? Just a moment ago.
The peace index, that's not my leadership capacity. That's just my health, right? That's
your leadership health.
You could put it that way, but I think it's more inclusive than that, because it's all about how I respond to everything, not just corporate leadership things, but it has to do with my own personal health and fitness. It has to do with how I interact with my wife and my son, and how I'm building my business and the relationships that I have, just friends and things around me. And so it's really holistic in that way. So it's about more than just am I a good leader? It's
okay. I thought that's what you said. I don't know. I'd have to look back at the recording.
Sure.
Second question or follow-up question just then. I thought that's what you said, is that I gauge myself as a fairly strong leader.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's what I said.
And that's why I asked you, who do you lead other than yourself, and how do you gauge that?
Oh, well, I think I have a lot of, so currently, right, like we said, I don't have a team of people I'm leading. I've led teams in the past, but I don't have a professional team that I am leading. But I don't think you have to have that to lead in different ways. So I have different groups or circles that I'm a part of that I am leading in, whether that's at home in my family or in a business community that I'm a part of, or just relationship networks in general. But all those are different, and I think you judge it based on the fruits, right? And that's why I want to constantly have those check-in moments, and why, like I said, I do that consistently. And when one of those scores, say the relationship score, that's the second of those 5 things, if I see that it is on a low spot and it's been there for a while, it's okay, I have to address that. What are the issues there, and what are steps that I can take to actually improve my health in that area? So
when you're leading, or when you're bringing your services to a company, take us through that again. We were at step 2, I think, what you were doing for them. You said that you just start over then.
With how I engage with a company?
Yes.
So generally, if I'm engaging with a new client, one of the first things I'm going to do is called a team performance assessment. And so that gauges, we have a lot of people, the whole team, if possible, or the department or whoever I'm working with. Everybody's going to take the team performance assessment, which measures 5 key components of communication, relationships, alignment, execution, and capacity, right? And so from that, we're going to get a data set. What are the highs? What are the lows? and these are the things they need to work on. Depending on what it is, then I'll make a recommendation for what kind of services we might engage with. Most companies struggle in those first two, the communication and relationships, because most people immediately see the professional value of alignment, execution, and capacity, right? Let's get on the same page, let's get stuff done, right? And let's grow. But communication and relationships are not quite as intuitive in the business world for most people.
How do you take care of the last three if you don't have strong first two?
I completely agree. That's what we talk about. You can force it at first, but that's when you don't have those first two, that's what eventually causes the breakdowns.
Yeah, if you don't tell somebody, if you don't communicate with each other effectively and set expectations, you can't have a healthy relationship, and then you cannot get to the other three.
You've got it. That's exactly. And so I have a flywheel that I show. And
people don't know that, they don't care about it, or they don't know how to execute that.
It's like no one realizes that that's the issue. I say no one, that's an overstatement, but
a large percentage of companies don't.
But as soon as I say exactly what you just said, they're all like, "Yeah, that makes perfect sense." So yeah, it's.
And these guys are making $5 million annual revenues without understanding the importance of communications and relationships,
or at least
them being the top two,
or at least without doing it
intentionally
super well, right? Yeah, so intentionally is a great word, because there are some people who are naturally better at it than others, right? And they don't have to put as much intentionality behind it. And if you're the only one in the company, or you've hired a bunch of people who are just like you, then it can naturally happen. But once you begin to scale up and you start to have a workforce that is not wired just like you, then that's when some of those problems start to actually manifest. And
how do you rewire somebody so that they are like you?
You don't.
Really?
No, that would be a mistake.
So you don't hire people that are not wired like you, or you incorporate their wiring where they fit in that corporation?
So I'm not saying do or don't hire someone based on if they're like you. But
you have to know how they're wired to be able to incorporate them in the team or not?
To help them reach their potential and to help your team reach its potential? Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, let me say it this way. I've known macho men that have had reasonably successful businesses that powered through their life, had many struggles because everybody around them were a bunch of morons. You ever known anybody like that? Have you ever knew anybody like that?
Well, moron is not one of our designated personality types.
That's what these people said. I'm not saying that they're right.
Yeah.
Have you ever known macho men
for sure.
that did that?
For sure.
I say that they either didn't hire right or they didn't train right. And it was that person's struggle. It wasn't the people's fault.
I think that's probably largely true. I think, though, that the world has changed. I think today with not the economy like money, but the economic culture, right, that we live in. Like, it used to be, if you needed a job, you probably worked at your local factory, right, and you made your paycheck and you went to the grocery store with it and you bought food and paid, for your family to eat. And if you don't
that was average, that was typical.
Right. And if you don't like your job, sorry, suck it up. Right? But with the way that the world is connected and with people's ability to move and go different places than they've been able to go before and work remotely and access education and training and all this stuff, if you don't like your job, people don't have any hesitation about going somewhere different, right? And older leadership models would say, oh, you don't like your job? That's too bad, right? You can't do that anymore because you will not retain those people. And so I think that's a big shift that's happened.
I was in the contracting business for 30 years. until last year when I retired. 54 years old, retired. I started my business with that mentality that there were nothing but a bunch of idiots, and it was just such a struggle. And then through the years of awareness, I came to the fact that I was hiring wrong, or I was training wrong, and it was all my fault if I had the wrong team with me. And that's why I can say that about others.
Yeah.
It's very it's very apparent to me that there was a problem with hiring or there was a problem with training.
Yeah.
That's the only two issues that you're going to have with having a good team, to me. And you help people that already have quite the team built, and you help them. They've got to be somewhat successfully working together.
There's something that's working. Yeah, for sure. It's usually a good product and a pretty decent business strategy, right? People are generally fairly good at coming up with one of those, if not both, in businesses. But the biggest headaches that people have in business typically don't come from the product or the business strategy. It comes from people. But they put the least amount of actual time and energy into developing those people.
Yeah.
Because most of it goes to the plan or the product.
Or developing themselves,
yes,
so that they can develop the people.
Yes.
And choose the right people from the labor pool that exists.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So you give them this 5 questionnaire basis to find where they are on their balance of these items and where they could most improve, so that hopefully they could improve the most important things.
Yeah.
And where do you take it from there?
So it depends on what the issue is, but for most companies I sit down with, like I said, it's one of those top 2. It's either communication or relationships. And so the most helpful thing that I tend to use in those situations is we go through some sort of a workshop series based around 5 voices, helping people to understand, first of all, themselves and their own tendencies, but also the tendencies of the people around them that they work with, right? And communication styles with each other. The analogy that I always use for it is, if you've ever traveled somewhere that doesn't speak English, right? And you sample some of the local cuisine, you might need to find the nearest restroom, right? And typically what people, at least from America, do, in my experience in that situation, is they run around and they ask very loudly where the bathroom is.
Nobody's speaking their language. Doesn't matter the volume. Right,
exactly. And I'm like, you can whisper bathroom, you can yell bathroom in someone's face, or you can jump around and do cartwheels and have a sign. If they don't speak English, none of it matters, right? And so in a team, we're all speaking different languages, if you will. That's what the 5 voices is. It's kind of these 5 different languages, ways of communicating. And what typically happens is I'm going to speak my language, usually unaware of the fact that there are 4 other languages floating around there. And when you don't understand it, you don't do what I expect, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to raise the volume or the intensity of my language.
Now, we're both speaking English here.
Right, yeah.
And most teams speak English.
Yeah, but we're not talking about actual English language. I'm talking about communication style. So, for instance, on 5 voices, I'm what's called a guardian, right? I'm very detail-oriented. I like clarity. I'm very present-focused, very task-driven. But, for instance, if I'm working with someone who's what we call a connector, connectors are very much the opposite. They are future-focused. They are people-driven, big picture, vision, lots of energy, fast-moving, stay out of the details. So if I go into a meeting with a connector and just start flooding them with details and spreadsheets and processes, they checked out. They're already on to their next meeting mentally, right?
Yeah. I would interrupt you and I would say, that's not really what I do. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Please give me the high-profile things so we can move forward.
Yeah, which is great, and most people won't do that, right?
Why?
Because they don't know.
They don't know who they are?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
They don't know that that's what they need to be able to function in their part of the team?
They don't know that that is not normal for everyone, right? Everybody has...
If it was normal, then why would it not be okay for me and you do it?
Say it again.
Why, if it was normal for a person like me to say, hold on, at least in the brain, hold on, I need the high level stuff. You get in the weeds. That's not my job. If they didn't know that was normal for you to want to give them that information and them to need to process it the way that they are, why can't people know that that's normal, just intuitively?
That's a great question. Why can't they intuitively know it?
They just don't. Is that what you're saying? A lot of people don't know that?
Well, I think we all assume that's what's normal to us is normal to everyone, right? It's an unconscious competency, right? Where I just assume that everybody sees the world the way that I do, right? And that's just not true. But when people do things that don't make sense to us, it frustrates us, right? But it's because we think everybody sees the world the same way that we do. But helping people understand that that's not the case, that goes so far.
And a lot of people don't have any idea. They're not self-aware or aware of their surroundings to know that.
Self-aware and others aware, right? We talk about different intelligences, right? And
so can we get back into the 5 languages?
5 voices?
Voices.
Yeah.
So the first 2 are...
First 2 voices. So I talked about myself as a guardian, and the other example I gave is a connector.
Right.
So the other 3 are a nurturer, a creative, and a pioneer. Right? And so all over the board as far as what they value, how they process information, how they make decisions. And there's overlap between some where you can kind of have some common ground with other people. And then there are some that you're diametrically opposed to, which doesn't mean you can't work together. It just means that you're not going to accidentally fall into place and it be your best partner. But if you can figure it out, then it's a really, really powerful team, right? So like the example I gave, myself a guardian versus a connector, we're different in every way. But if we can understand that about each other and leverage that and lean into each other's strengths, then we're a power team, right? Because we're working in each other's blind spots. And so helping people understand that and that about themselves and about the people that they work with is powerful.
Yeah, it's. Do you ever get to a place where you know what you know and you forget that you did not know at one time?
Oh, I'm sure. I think that happens all the time with myself, with everybody, but yeah, with myself for sure. And so that's it's one of the things though that I love about doing those workshops with teams is because for all of them, it's the first time interacting with it, right? And I've probably never done a workshop where at least once, and honestly probably 5 to 6 times, somebody will say something or ask a question or have an insight that I go, that's brilliant. I've never thought about that before. I say that out loud during the workshops because people, when you give them the information and the tools and they can apply it not just in theory, but in reality, they come up with incredible applications and deductions from it that you just can't get in a lab, right? That you have to have in real world scenarios. And so, yeah, I'm constantly learning from clients as I engage with them.
How do you comfortably deliver the same thing that has been drilled down inside you and it just becomes second nature to you, to people that don't know what you know without starting to think that they do?
how do I not overwhelm?
Now, how do you stay grounded and delivering a good material that's basic enough for these people that don't have never been exposed to that?
Yeah.
But it's just a part of who you are, and yeah, you know what you need to deliver to them. Does that make sense?
I think so. For me, it's a combination. One, I'm using the same material, for the first workshop today that I used, years ago. So that stays pretty static. It's, entry level, but that's always paired up with how is this impacting me right now, right? So you're not going to come to a workshop or keynote of mine where I'm not going to tell you some story of how this brought to light something in my marriage, in my role as a father, in this client that I worked with a week ago, right? It's all real-time things so that it's something people can connect with. It's tangible. So I think it's a combination of here's the basic curriculum, but here's actual real world stories that are my stories, right? Of how it's been impactful.
You develop curriculum dependent on your customers' needs?
I do. That's something that I haven't always done, but in the last year or two, I've really started doing a lot more of that. Just trying to go, okay, how does this not just make good sense for teams, but how does this make good sense for a nonprofit team, for a brewery team, for a, insert industry here team? And so, yeah, that's been really, really fun to do, honestly. It goes deeper, quicker with people whenever it's specific like that.
So you get to know the inner workings of that sector, that industry, and that company?
Certainly that company, and I have learned a lot about different industries and sectors that I didn't know much about before I got in with those companies. But yeah, there are teams, can't say any of them obviously, but like there are teams that I know more about what's going on inside that team than any one person, because I not only do I do training with teams, I also do one-on-one coaching with people that's confidential. And so the advantage I have, like most people that do one-on-one coaching, they only hear that side of it. But I know everybody that they're frustrated with and the personalities that are involved in that. And so it's been a really cool, honestly, room to be in, if you will, to be a trusted advisor for a lot of people that are making big decisions for their company. I've had more than one, late evening phone call from a CEO that says, Ryan, we're getting ready to fire this person. I need your input on this because you've trained them and you know our team. I don't know. It's a privilege to be invited into that stuff. And so certainly always learning about industries and sectors. Yeah.
That seems like a very interesting, dynamic life adventure that at least should be intriguing to a lot of people.
It can be a lot of fun. I was 2-3 weeks ago now. I spent almost the whole week in Charlotte in North Carolina for a beer, like a craft beer conference, meeting with a bunch of leaders in that industry. And that's pretty cool to fly there for that, right? I've had a church in Houston fly me down there, and a technology company in Chicago fly me up to do workshops, and a dental office in San Francisco fly me out there to do stuff with them. And so, it's fun getting to be in a lot of different industries and see different things. But people are people, regardless of what industry that they're in. And so the people problems tend to be very, very similar.
How do you incorporate these different teachings and the modules, the systems that they have? Is that some kind of a copyright thing that you're part of their coaching system, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm connected with a company out of Oklahoma City, actually, called Giant Worldwide. They are kind of a back end company for consultants and coaches like me. They do a lot of training and licensing, stuff like that. They're not exclusive. I always tell everybody they're the most open-handed company I've ever encountered. So probably about 90%, 85 to 90% of what I do is stuff that I'm licensed to do from them, but I can integrate all of my own different things that I've added on over time. I'm free to do that as well. So, but they're a phenomenal organization that's been incredibly supportive and beneficial to me over time as I've built the business.
So they are a back-end company platform that gives you the right to use a lot of the training that you use. You've written some of your own trainings as well. Mm-hmm. And if you have the license to use these trainings, do you also have the right to combine them however you want?
Yeah, as long as there's a few stipulations. I can't put out pre-recorded stuff. So I couldn't go on to Kajabi and start a course that used Giant content. I'm not allowed to do that. But I can present it live in basically any way. Have to give credit, right? Everything that's Giant is going to say Giant on it somewhere. But other than that, yeah, I'm free to integrate it with my stuff. Now, if I were to do some egregious thing, they could pull my licensing, of course. But
haven't done that yet.
Have not. Yeah.
What is the difference in management and leadership to you?
Ooh, the difference in management and leadership. Mm-hmm. I think when I think of the word management, I don't think it has to be a dirty word by any means, but I think the negative side of the word management would be everything is a cog, everything is a number, everything is a statistic, right? And there's not people behind it. There's no nuance to it. Whereas somebody who's a leader, who's like a good, healthy leader, understands that they lead people. And people are just that. They're people. They're human beings with needs and tendencies. And honestly, in a way, superpowers, right? That a good leader will understand how to help those people unlock those superpowers and meet their own potential. And if you got a team full of people that are doing that, then you've got an awesome team that's getting really great stuff done. That's a whole lot different than managing cogs in a machine and just making sure that this person is at this desk for this amount of time checking these boxes, right? Regardless of anything else they've got going on. So, yeah, that's my from the hip answer on that.
Okay.
One. Yeah.
Okay. I have a little different definition, but
yeah,
we'll take that. So you train leaders and businesses and the culture, and you incorporate departments or whole companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From entry-level positions to the CEO or maybe that branch or that department leader.
Yeah, I don't usually deal with as many entry-level things. I want to be dealing mostly with people who are people leaders, right? So whether they are the CEO or whether they're a shift manager, right? Somebody who has people that they're responsible for leading and developing and having report to them. Now, I'm giving that shift leader resources with the goal that they are then passing that down to the people that they lead, even if that person never interacts with me. But for leverage sake, I'm trying to work with the people leaders of a company.
Training the trainers?
Training the trainers, sure, yeah.
Okay. What brought you into this line of work?
Fortunately for me, just different organizations or teams I was a part of from the time I graduated college, even before graduating college, but up through that early adulthood, right? Just about every team I was a part of or organization I was a part of put a high value on professional, personal leadership development. And so no matter where I was, we were always, going to a conference, having someone in to do a workshop, reading development books, like that was always a high priority everywhere I was at. And so getting to learn from a lot of honestly really good and intentional leaders was a big part of it. But then one of my natural giftings or skill sets, if you will, is I'm a good teacher. I can take big concepts and learn them and internalize them and be able to teach them to people in a way that's helpful for them. I didn't know that at the time, but hindsight showed me, just about everything that we would do, eventually someone would come to me and ask, like, hey, that thing that you guys went and learned, could you come teach that to our team? And so I would do that just because I could. And then it would happen often enough that I had the thought, like, maybe this could be a side hustle, And so I did that. And then it was happening often enough that I thought, I could probably do this part-time. And then that was happening often enough that I thought, I think I could do this full-time and I would love it. And so I started doing it part-time in 2018, was full-time in 2019. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
You did it through COVID.
I did.
In your early years.
Yeah. That was an interesting time, to say the least. But it ended up, not that anything about COVID itself was good, but there was some things that came out of it that were beneficial, I think, not just for my business, but any businesses or entrepreneurially minded people who could adapt, right? So it expanded my reach, right? I didn't have to just be in person. I could do things virtually with teams, and I didn't have to train them how to do that, right? Everybody had to learn real quick how to use Zoom. And it didn't feel like I was cheapening anything to propose that to a client because it became the norm, right?
Yeah, that was their option.
And, I'm sure you and anybody else that's listening have been in Zoom calls that were really well run and a lot that were very poorly run. And if you could figure out how to run a Zoom meeting well, it can be really great. And so during that time, I did a lot of that, running Zoom calls with large, groups of people. And so everything that I do is designed to be able to be delivered in person, which I still prefer, but also alternatively to be delivered online without losing quality as far as the content goes. So that was a big switch in how the business grew I didn't have to be on the ground in person if that wasn't an option. And so it let me expand the territory. That's when I started pushing back into the Tulsa market because, hey, everybody's on Zoom, why not? And started laying the groundwork for me to eventually move back.
With your knowledge and experience, what is a key that you would give to someone that you typically bring into your realm, or they bring you into their realm? If you had one key to give to a potential customer, what would that be?
To a potential customer, one of the first things that comes to mind is you cannot give what you do not possess, right? You can't give what you don't possess. So if you don't have self-awareness, you can't expect the people that work for you to have self-awareness. If you're not a good communicator, why would you expect the people that work for you to be good communicators, right? If you can't plan for the future, right? If you can't be present where you are, all of those things. You cannot give what you don't possess, but you have to have self-awareness to know what you don't possess, right? So that's the conversation.
And to know what you do possess.
And to know what you do possess, absolutely. Two sides of the coin, right? And so that's the conversation I want to get into because that a lot of times is just kind of shoved under the rug, right? And you you were saying earlier, people powering through. And that works for a while.
Yeah, I've had people that have become quite financially successful through a lot of almost slavery.
Yeah, nose to the grind, right?
Slavery that they lived.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very fun for them.
Or the people around them.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. So we want healthy leaders, right? That's what I'm after. healthy leaders and high-performing teams. And I think that starts with self-awareness.
Thanks for coming to see us today.
Thanks for having me.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?